Hello, everyone, and welcome to Is Low Code the Answer for Operational Efficiency Improvements? Today's webinar is sponsored by OutSystems and produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is Keith Ward. I'm with Actual Tech Media, and I am really excited to be your moderator for this special event today. But before we get to the content, got to go over some housekeeping items to help you get the most out of this session. First up, we want this to be an informative event for you, so we encourage any questions in the questions box in your webinar control panel. That Q&A panel is also the place to let us know about any technical issues you might be experiencing. If that happens, please refresh your browser first. That'll fix most problems you've got. So remember to refresh your browser. People tend to forget that for some reason when things go sideways on an event. Now, if that refresh doesn't work, then let us know and we'll definitely hop right on it. All right, next, in the handouts section of your webinar control panel, you will find a metric ton of fantastic resources, including a free ebook from OutSystems on achieving greater operational efficiency with high-performance low-code, a link to more information from KPMG Solutions, a link to request an OutSystems demo, and a PDF copy of the slide deck that they will be using during today's presentation. Wow. Now that is a lot of goodness. Okay, other great stuff you will find in the handouts section is a link to the Gorilla Guide Book Club, where you can get access to our huge library of books on technology topics. And you'll also find a link to our event center, which has our calendar of upcoming events. Make sure you look those over and sign up for anything that appeals to you. All right, next, at the end of this webinar event, we will be giving away a $250 Amazon gift card to one of you. Now, you do have to be in attendance during the entire live event to qualify for that gift card. The official terms and conditions of today's prize drawing can be found in the handouts section, or you can hold on to that, print it out, and then use it tonight to go to sleep if you're having a little bit of insomnia. It is that exciting. All right. And with that, folks, why don't we get to the main event here? It is my pleasure and honor to introduce you to our presenters today. We have got Dan Rosser, a Principal Solutions Marketing Manager with OutSystems, and he is being joined by Mike Harper, Managing Director for KPMG. Really looking forward to this particular event. So Dan and Mike are ready to go, so I am going to hand the baton over to them. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Everyone for joining us today. I'm excited to be talking with Mike about operational efficiency. Just a quick rundown of our agenda. First thing we're going to look at is, what is the scope of operational efficiency? And then we're going to dive into some of the benefits associated with it. From there, I'm eager to hear some of KPMG's best practices that Mike and his team use and learn some of their keys to success. And then we're going to cover some use cases, some, kind of where the rubber meets the road, customer stories, and understand how they're applying low code to address operational efficiency before we do a quick summary and wrap up. So when we talk about operational efficiency, there's a number of aspects to it, and that makes it a complex topic. Ultimately, the goal of most organizations is to be efficient in how they run their business, how they maximize their revenue, and ultimately how they satisfy their customer needs. And when we look at operational efficiency and the pursuit of operational excellence as a whole, there are three kind of key areas we typically focus on. The first is process efficiency. That is, how do I design efficient processes and put those into action through workflows and automation, etc. The second is people efficiency, which is, how do I improve people productivity? Whether it's through something like an onboarding process, or maybe you have team members in the field who need to have more effective communications, and you've got scheduling and logistics areas you need to be efficient at, and they're looking for information at their fingertips, and how do you make that available to them in an efficient way? And then the final area is technology efficiency, which is how do I get the most out of the systems I have in place, like my ERPs or CRMs or my ticketing systems? And typically you're wanting to do this without having to spend large amounts of time or a lot of money trying to customize an off-the-shelf solution that may not be as specific to your business as you need it. And then there's some other areas that run across all of these buckets. And these are things like compliance. A lot of industries have compliance that they need to address. And regardless of which area of efficiency you're looking at, that needs to be a consideration. Maybe it's data sharing and data management. And that's a kind of a common thread through those. And ultimately, when we look at operational efficiency, it doesn't just apply to one industry or one geography. It really is across industry verticals, across geographies. So that's a little bit about the scope. Mike, that's a pretty diverse set of things we're covering and talking about. When you think about the topic of operational efficiency, what focus areas kind of are top of mind for you? And what are you currently seeing prioritized in the market around operational efficiency?
Yeah, thanks, Dan, and thanks again to everyone who joined. So very rightly said, it's a very big topic and a lot of different areas that you cover down on in terms of the scope of operational efficiency. And I think you've done a really good job here of breaking it down into process, people, and technology. And if we think back around, different types of operational efficiency approaches that have existed throughout the years, they typically break it down into people, process, technology, and I would add data as well as another component of thinking about operational efficiency. And so when you start to strip it down to its core, the way I think about it is, how do we help people perform the jobs and the operations, the tasks that they need to do, leveraging the technology and getting the most or getting as much as we can out of the technology in order to process the data effectively, to then have either additional cost savings or revenue generation, better customer experiences, better employee experiences. And so it's, thinking about that framework and thinking about those considerations as we look at whether it's processes for employee onboarding, as you have on the slide as an example, or extending ERPs and, sort of freezing the ERP and the standard, let's say, implementations, and then building around those ERPs when and where appropriate. And so as we think about that construct, it's really a thought process in trying to understand where the value is in terms of driving those efficiencies, pulling the different levers that we can use, both from a process perspective, right? So thinking about, does process reengineering need to take place from a people perspective, and understanding the different roles and the different organizations involved with the specific processes. And then, of course, the technology lever, which includes low-code applications, certainly, automation, updates to core systems. And there's, in many cases, there's not one right answer, but it's really thinking through those different considerations to help drive the operational efficiencies and other goals and strategic objectives that our clients have.
Thanks, Mike. Those are some great insights. When you look at the primary benefits that your customers are seeing from their efforts, where do those typically fall? What are the benefits that they're actually realizing from some of the operational efficiency initiatives they're undertaking?
Yeah, so I think number one, and certainly in today's economy, it's around cost savings, right? And that could be in the form of time savings. So processes that took X amount of hours now take X minus, Y amount of hours per day or per, whatever iteration. That's really, I would say, the biggest area that we're seeing today. Other areas of efficiency benefits are around changing processes and leveraging technology so that you maybe don't have to do as much with certain resources as what you used to do before. Good example is around process digitization. So there are a number of processes that still rely heavily on paper. Maybe you have a lot of manual entry associated with it and wet signatures that are still required or applied as part of the process. And as you think about digitization and putting a wrapper or an application for that process, yes, you can have time savings because it's now digital, but then also there's the savings on, well, we don't have to spend as much printing and we don't have to spend as much on paper. And so it's really trying to think about, and extend the thoughts on where are you gaining efficiencies, or could you potentially gain savings to help build that business case and drive value back to the business. The other areas that we see also are around the customer experience as well as the employee experience. Oftentimes, those two go hand in hand. So when you have employees that are using applications and processes that are seamless, right, that can connect data from the front, middle, and back office, then they are able to better serve their customers. That in turn helps with the customer experience and helps to drive better seamless experiences with the customers, especially in the servicing or moments that matter with the customer when they're reaching out for support or for help.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think we like to look at it as when people start to undertake the operational efficiencies, I guess, umbrella, it really is about creating that end-to-end experience that's going to drive adoption. And it's not just about processes, but that's a part of it. But it's also, as you mentioned, about those experiences. So that's great to hear. Let's dive into some best practices. What are the things that customers can do to ensure success, and how can they get to the realization of these benefits? So I guess my first question for you, Mike, is how do you select the right tools? As an end user, if you're looking at all the tools out there, it can be a little overwhelming. And so how do you select the right tools? And then also maybe you can talk a little bit about what part high performance low code or low code like OutSystems plays in the technology stack as it relates to operational efficiency.
Yeah, so one of my new favorite words, among many, but one of my new favorite words is optionality, right? And to your point, there are a lot of different tools on the market, a lot of different technology approaches on the market. There are a lot of different choices that our clients have and that we all have today in terms of either creating an application, automating a process, or trying to seek some operational efficiency gains. So as I think about, and as our teams think about, well, how do we drive operational efficiency? At its heart, it comes down to understanding the specific business processes and the context of those business processes, and then thinking about, one, are those processes still relevant? Do they make sense? Are there inherent inefficiencies in that process where, quite frankly, you can gain some operational efficiencies without having to have a technology implementation? But that's often not the case. And so then it becomes an exercise of understanding how to map the different business processes to the different capabilities of the technology, and understanding, what technology or combination of technologies can be put in place to help drive that operational efficiency. When I think about OutSystems and high performance low code, driving again to that my favorite word of optionality, what I like and really enjoy about OutSystems is the ability to have professional developers who can build applications on a platform and do so in a very quick and rapid fashion. But also, it takes off some of the restrictions that you may have either from a user interface perspective or from this is only a web app, I need a mobile app. Can I do both on OutSystems? Yes. So it helps provide that common platform that helps teams accelerate development. It helps promote reusable components. It reinforces the idea of composable architecture and the discussion on configure as opposed to build versus buy. And so I really enjoyed the capabilities that OutSystems as a platform gives its teams, gives its users to help understand what some of the different options are within the platform, and not necessarily restrict the developers on having it to be only one way, or locking down into a specific UI design that may or may not align with our clients' expectations.
That's great.
And I would also add, and maybe sort of turn the question back over to you, Dan, from from your perspective, what are you seeing with OutSystems and high performance low code? And do you see it coexisting with other technology? As we're talking about optionality and the difference between OutSystems and, hey, maybe I can build a bot or use RPA or something like that to drive some operational efficiencies.
Yeah, that's a great question, Mike. I think from my perspective, one of you hit on a lot of the key strengths of a tool like OutSystems. And it really is the diversity of the platform. It's secure. It scales from simple to complex use cases. It can be used to deliver those end-to-end experiences we talked about, and it really gives companies the flexibility and agility across the process, people, and technology efficiency buckets, and even extending beyond those. And I think that's of tremendous value to organizations. And when we look at coexisting, I think that's the other thing is we really build a lot into the integration of our tool. And when I say that, we've got pre-built connectors to over 400 systems out of the box, and we leverage open standards. And we've got cases where we're providing the front end modernization for a legacy system while a customer is leaving that intact, the system intact for the data. And then we've got other situations where they're building a core system from the ground up. And so it really is not a single answer, but we play across a number of different areas and with a number of different tools, whether it be RPA, whether it be your core systems, or your existing Salesforce CRM or your ERP. And I think that that flexibility is really on display in the thousands of use cases and apps that we have documented around customers that we have and how they're using the tool.
Yeah, that's a good point. When we talk about tools, I'm sort of reminded of different conversations that I've had, and potentially others who are listening to the webinar have had as well, where you get accused of having a tool, and listen, we're a golden hammer, looking for the nails that we can hit with the golden hammer. And I think that while there's some truth to that, right, in terms of, as you think about the technology in that construct, there's a tendency to try to find the problems that fit the technology. But I think that without systems and the ability to integrate with other tools, it's less of a hammer, and sometimes you can think of it as like a Swiss Army knife, right? It can do a number of different things quite well. It doesn't do everything well, right? It's not a silver bullet, but when used in the right context, it definitely can work with other technologies in a very nice and seamless way that, again, help drive operational efficiencies, as well as help to make it easier to navigate, right, the landscape of optionality in terms of technology tools and platforms.
Yeah, that's very well said. I really like the analogy of the Swiss Army knife. That's I think a very accurate depiction of kind of the space that we fit into. So I've been wanting to ask you another question that moves away from the technology a little bit, because I know that beyond picking that right technology and applying it the right way, there's a number of other factors that companies have to consider when they're looking at operational efficiency and how to have success. Given your experience, can you share a few insights on some of the other key success factors that companies should be thinking about?
Yeah, so I think one of the most heartbreaking things to me in the technology space, and I'll sort of have to qualify that, but is when you have a technology success, but an implementation failure, right? So what that means is you can build software, you can build an application that works as intended, but it doesn't get across the line and doesn't go into production, and therefore, it may not and does not drive that operational efficiency that you were looking to gain by building that application. And there are a number of different reasons why that could happen, and we won't sort of try to list them all out on this webinar, but a couple of things I think are really important to keep in mind. And one is not to underestimate the importance of change management and understanding how the technology changes, whether it's one application, one platform, or multiple in a transformative approach, how that fits within the organizational culture and how we as people deal with that change. It's funny, we've had a number of different calls, and we all are used to now working on Zoom or Teams or name your virtual meeting space. But still sometimes it takes that moment to do that cognitive switching to say like, oh, okay, I'm on Zoom or I'm on Teams, and so here's where the mute button is, and here's where the share button is, and we go through that somewhat naturally, right? As an example with the teleconferencing apps, but think about that when you apply that to applications that you need to use for, let's say, customer onboarding, or applications that you need to use for processing invoices, or post mortgage close or something like that, right? So all those different points around cognitive switching from an old app that I've been using the same application for 5-10 years, and now I need to do something new. Or, hey, this is a process that I used to do for a long time, and now I need to do something different. There's a change aspect to that, and so getting that change aspect, the components of helping clients and helping people navigate through that change is really important, and really helps to drive home the actual realization of the benefits of operational efficiency, because it helps promote use of the new process, the new application, the automation, whatever that change may be. So for me, that's the first one, is in terms of change management in organizational culture. The other is more so around thinking about OutSystems, low code, automation, right? All of these technologies are great, and they provide a lot of capabilities to deliver operational efficiency, but you also need to be efficient in how you deliver it, right? As a development team, as teams that manage the risk and compliance aspects of it, teams that really look out for the strategic vision and how is this going to change the organization in the next 1, 3, 5 years, right? And really having the right level of governance around that, whether it's in the form of a community of practice, a center of excellence, some group or somebody that can help define what those processes are, what are those metrics and key performance indicators that the organization wants to look after to make sure that the process of driving and delivering these operational efficiencies with different tools and technologies is also efficient itself, and not adding on to, right, increasing costs and potential tech debt that the organization would have to encounter and deal with in the future.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that we at OutSystems really focus on a lot. Is how do we speed development time by creating an environment and a situation where our tools really help to promote that efficiency among the developer community, for example. So yeah.
All right, and I think the other thing too for me is as I think about all the different or many of the components of operational efficiency that we discussed throughout this webinar. It can be really hard to know, like, how do I get started? Like, where do I start? Do I start with process decomposition, or do I do process mining, or do I just go pick a tool and have at it? So, like, what have you seen work well with different OutSystems customers in terms of how to get started on their journey?
Yeah, well, ultimately, as you know, every organization is different, and there's certainly not a one size fits all solution. And I know that OutSystems, and I'm sure KPMG as well, take the approach of kind of meeting the customer where they are. So we really look at, what are you specifically trying to accomplish? What are the goals and the outcomes you're looking for? And if you've got a manual process with a bunch of paper, the starting point is likely digitizing or digitization, which you kind of mentioned earlier. And then for others, where they're a little bit further along in their journey, and maybe they're really focusing on the automation aspect and intelligent automation and running things with RPA. So it's really kind of getting to the heart of what you're trying to accomplish and what you've got in place. There's other organizations that are really pretty advanced, and what they're looking for is, hey, I've got these silos of data, and I need to figure out how to get that the value out of that data by making sure that it's orchestrated across my organization and all the systems and processes that we have, and how do we build that interoperability. And so we really try to work with clients to understand what they're trying to accomplish, to make sure that we're going to be able to help, and that we can kind of give some recommendations on how to help. And I think the one point that I would drive home is that, given all the things that we're talking about, I still go back to that end-to-end experience as something that's critical. And one of the things that I think really is a strength of OutSystems is being able to kind of create that end-to-end experience along with some of these other buckets. And for me, I think that no matter where an organization's at, that needs to be a factor in their process of the design and what they're trying to accomplish and how they build things, whether it be in OutSystems or whatever tool. They be thinking about that end-to-end experience, and how are you going to create an experience that, number one, is going to be adopted by your employees? Is it going to create a good, pleasurable experience for them where it makes their job easier and really does drive that efficiency? And if it's a customer facing experience, how is it going to contribute to making your customer's life easier? So those are some considerations. So I mean, I think when I look at it, I really think there's not a single answer, but it really is about kind of assessing where you're at and being honest about it. While we would all like to say that we're ready for I guess advanced digital transformation and doing some advanced things, we're not all at that point in our organizations. We've got some roadblocks. Maybe we need to start somewhere smaller. So it really is about kind of just defining where you want to start.
Yeah, that's a great point. And you mentioned something that sparked another thought. In terms of getting started, and then thinking about a broader, let's say, larger transformation initiative. Certainly in the market and in the industry, there's a lot of information and news around AI and generative AI and the impact of that. Can you maybe spend just a moment or two and talk maybe about what you're seeing so far with OutSystems and AI, or OutSystems and generative AI?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I was actually at a conference the first couple of days of this week, and Gen AI was really pretty much the primary topic. It was an innovation and technology conference, and it was really interesting to hear all the different perspectives on it. And when I look at AI, it's not something that's new to OutSystems. I mean, we've been investing in AI, doing a lot of research about AI, building it into our tools for a number of years. But as things have evolved, and particularly with Gen AI really advancing so much, we're constantly looking at how are we going to use this and incorporate it into our tools. And I think that the approach that we've taken really is about making sure that apps meet the highest standards of enterprise readiness. And so it's not just about blindly applying Gen AI, which is obviously something that is appealing to people, is to say, oh, let's just embrace this and run with it. But you've got to think about the governance around what you're doing, and I think that's key. And so we've taken a much more measured approach to how we're building it into our systems. And we actually released in June, when we had our conference here in Denver, we actually did a press release around our strategy around Gen AI and our roadmap, and so that's something that's on our website, and I would encourage any of the folks out there who are interested to take a look at it, because what we're really trying to do is just continue to build on creating a great experience for accelerating time to market, for empowering junior developers and non-coders, and enabling rapid change and interaction, but doing so in a managed way. And I think that's the key part of it.
Yeah, it's great to hear, right, that yes, you understand the technology's there, and it has a lot of great capabilities, but it needs to be done in a responsible way that helps mitigate potential risks to the organization that you just need to think about before you take the plunge into that area of technology. It's also neat to me that it ties back into the discussions that we're having around operational efficiency and optionality, and different choices that you can make to drive those operational efficiencies. So a number of different capabilities and developer accelerators in the platform for OutSystems. At the same time, you can use the platform to help build the user interface, the orchestration, the integrations that may be needed to take the capabilities of generative AI and apply it to use cases that are both customer and employee facing. So really neat to see how as the technology ecosystem matures and grows and goes in multiple directions, OutSystems continues to keep pace and can provide that layer of orchestration in the applications to support it.
Yeah, well, Mike, I think the part of the part of the discussion that I'm most interested in is getting to some use cases and talking a little bit about how customers are applying OutSystems and driving operational efficiency improvement efforts, and I'd love to kind of ask if you could maybe summarize a couple of use cases or situations that you've seen, and maybe how customers are getting some benefits from looking at operational efficiency and using OutSystems and as part of their toolkit.
Sure, it's a great question. So one that's top of mind, since we were sort of talking about it a little bit, is around digitization and orchestrating large and complex processes. And so a couple of examples that come to mind are around client onboarding for either wealth management or for banking. These processes a lot of times they may start with paper. Then there may be multiple systems that are involved in the process, some of them legacy, some of them may be newer. They may or may not be integrated at one point in time or another. And with onboarding, especially in the financial services industry, there are a number of compliance checks that absolutely have to be met. And so, one particular example, KPMG, both in Portugal and the US, work with clients to really take a step back and understand their process, right? Understand what is that process today? How do customers fill out the paper applications, where do they do it? How do they send it in? Is it scanned in? Is it digitized? Like, what's that process? What are the metrics around the process? So how long does it take a customer to go through, from that, let's say prospecting to saying, yes, I want to open an account, all the way to that account being open and ready for servicing. And understand, what are some of the other components that may be in play. So if it's primarily paper-based, can we reduce the amount of paper that's being printed? Can we reduce mailing costs? Can we reduce, these other different aspects that maybe are not core to the process, but all in all fit within the confines of the business case. So, one particular example we can see here on the slides, a large number of core systems replaced. Many of them were sort of point solutions that were built up over time, specifically for the onboarding application, and being able to replace those systems and fold them within the broader ecosystem of OutSystems applications that we built for this particular client on this slide. Another couple of numbers. Greater than 90% of the partners sort of adopting digital onboarding. So in this case, especially with digitization, you still need the option to have paper. You may want to think about different ways to encourage the use of the digital channels, as that, again, helps drive those different cost savings and operational efficiencies. But ultimately, some customers and some clients will still need to use paper for various very good reasons. But it was very encouraging to see that over 90% of the partners adopted that digital process, one, for their own efficiencies, for the user and customer experience on the front end, and then being able to flow that data digitally throughout the middle and back offices was another benefit that we saw as a result of that high level of adoption. The number of new applications that were created for this, 14 seems like a high number, but it was really the way to orchestrate the different pieces of the process, to have a web front end, have a mobile capability where we could provide that multimodal application that met the customer where they were, right? So if I make a decision, like, what, I want to open this account today. I've been speaking with the advisor. I've been working with my contacts, and this seems like the thing that I want to do today. Having the ability to do that where I am, whether it's, I'm on my laptop, I have my tablet, or if I'm on my phone, to be able to get the process started, both through those different applications that we're able to orchestrate, as well as that mobile first front end solution that our teams were able to build on OutSystems, was a really great benefit that we saw with this particular use case. A couple of other items that were, for me, I thought were really, really great to see, and some I would say were table stakes. So the different verification for KYC, or know your client, and the different statutory and regulatory requirements for onboarding, but building that in a way that was more seamless, easy for the customer and the client to fill out, but then also for the risk teams that would, potentially handle some of the elevated due diligence, or some of the different checks that would be required along the way, making it easy for them to find the information using the same tools and not have to punch out to a separate application that's not integrated. What was also really important, providing a way to have an interaction with video, right? So if a customer got stuck, how can we punch out to some type of VTC technology to provide that direct ability to communicate or to schedule that, and then the rest around having B2C and B2B, again, just opens up the flexibility. It helps answer some questions on optionality, where if it's do I have to do A or B? It's, well, you can do both. Do I have to do B to C or B to B? You can do both, and you can do both on the same platform that was built, and again, also easily customizable. Again, that's more a function of the platform with OutSystems, as well as the overall design of the solution.
Yeah, and I like the fact that you kind of brought out the point that in this case, if you've got multiple kind of uses and you really want to create that omni-channel experience, you can. If you've got something that you're trying to customize and you're trying to build it for your particular business, there's always nuances and there's always things that are unique to your organization or to how you interact with your customer base. And I think that that's one of the things that I got excited about when I was looking at OutSystems before I even came to work here, was just the number of possibilities and the ways that you can apply the platform is really pretty extensive. Any other use cases or customer stories that you want to share?
Yeah, so I think the others, and I'll talk around sort of some different themes. The other sort of use cases are around, okay, well, how do we leverage OutSystems and think about intelligent document processing? So in a scenario where you can't necessarily digitize, or the client's not ready to digitize a complete process and get rid of paper altogether, how can we think about OutSystems and other tools in the technology ecosystem to provide a user interface that orchestrates the process, but that also takes that data from paper and moves it to a digital application on OutSystems that allows us to connect our data from front, middle, and back office and flow through. So working with a number of different clients and ideas, right? Still scoping out a number of those items for using OutSystems as part of that approach and as part of that overall solution architecture to prove out, yes, this part of digitization where we still have paper because we can't get away from it, but we can add some intelligent document processing from other technology partners. We can wrap that around OutSystems, and then we can have this process that flows through. Is another sort of, I would say, set of use cases that I'm very excited about. And then, of course, I would be remiss, as you mentioned, generative AI, right? Thinking about what are different areas where generative AI could be used in an enterprise. And there are a lot of really great ideas out there on how it could be used and where it could be used. And, I won't say all of them involve OutSystems, right? Because that would be a bit much. But, OutSystems, in the right scenario and in the right place can certainly have a spot to play. So, for example, if you think about summarizing different types of documents, right? So let's say that there's a lot of different government regulations come out, depending on the industry, some more than others. And it takes time, right, to stay on top of the different regulations, the different guidelines, the statutory and legal requirements, for example. Can you leverage generative AI to help to summarize those documents and create, sort of a short blurb. But then what's the UI for that, right? You can do something custom. You can use some of the tools that are out there already. You need to think about, sort of the data and where it lives and how it flows and how you protect that. But then you can also build a user interface for OutSystems around that. And you can build controls around the different prompts that people use. And you can start to track, okay, we sent this prompt or this person sent this prompt and here's a response they got. And, does this, prompt require some fine tuning in order for us to get better results going forward? So, that pattern of low code plus Gen AI and low code and OutSystems as a component that can help bring Gen AI solutions to organizations is something that I'm certainly looking forward to and really excited about.
That's a great use case as well. Yeah, it's great to hear you say that, because I think it's always nice to kind of see someone paint the picture of the possibilities with Gen AI right now, because I think it's something on everyone's mind, and so kind of understanding, how to apply it and ways that we're thinking of applying it is really valuable. Well, I know that we're running a bit short on time, so I don't know if we've got time for Q&A, but what I would definitely encourage is anyone out there that has questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll do our best to get back to you. And then, I think moving to, kind of close things a little bit. For anyone who would like to learn more about the topics here, Alexa mentioned it earlier, but there are some links from OutSystems and KPMG that are available in your resources section. And I'd encourage you also to look at the many customer stories on our websites. We have a number of them on OutSystems. I know KPMG has some, and certainly would encourage you to try to see all the different ways that technology is being applied to this operational efficiency improvement effort. So with that, Mike, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I want to thank you for your time today. I know you're a busy guy, but it's always great to talk with you. And I also want to thank KPMG for your continued partnership, and to everyone who's joined us. We really appreciate it, and hope you found this to be a valuable discussion. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dan and Mike, for that awesome presentation. Wow, they covered so much. And there's a ton of questions that have come in, as they alluded to. And right now we are up against it in terms of our time. So I do want to mention that all questions that were asked today, and we got just a bunch of them, very interested in the topic. All of you today, it seems like, they will get back to you. OutSystems will be following up, and so have no fear about that. And reach out to them in the meantime. Obviously, remember all of those handouts too as well. Some great resources there. So definitely take a look at all of that stuff. And that about does it for today, folks. Before we let you go, though, we got one more piece of business to attend to, and that is the Amazon gift card prize drawing. As I said at the beginning, you do need to be present for the whole event to be eligible. And we have a winner for today, and that winner is Jose Asensio from Missouri. Congratulations, Jose. We will be in touch to get you your card ASAP, so sit tight on that. And with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank OutSystems for making this event possible. And I want to thank all of you attendees for attending, for your great questions, for being here with us today. And we are now wrapped, folks. That concludes the event. Have a great rest of your day. I will see you in the next one.